Let's try again and talk about these visa changes and talk again to Jana Favreau, the Director of Advocacy at the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. Thanks for your time. So the sorts of people that have been waiting for this visa change that are in Australia at the moment, talk us through some typical people, I guess.
Thanks, and sorry about the sound glitch there. So this announcement will impact 19,000 people who arrived in Australia over 10 years ago and were granted refugee status because of a change under the so-called fast-track rules that have seen people denied their rights and denied permanent protection for over a decade. These means that 19,000 people will finally be able to rebuild their lives and will be granted the permanency that they deserve as they were granted refugee status, some people up to 10 years ago.
So, already the sort of questions being asked is around access to welfare. Yeah, but do you have any stats on what sort of position these people are in, how many are working and so on?
Most people have been in the country for 10 years. They're working, they're studying, we have an employment program. Most people who are currently on TPVs and shares are contributing, they are paying taxes, they're starting businesses. All that was in the way of them being able to rebuild their lives was having that permanent status so that they could continue to rebuild their lives. And they want to call Australia home. The calls that I've taken this morning from people on TPV and Chevs, they keep saying, finally, we can call Australia home. Finally, our limbo has ended and finally we'll be able to see our family, reunited with our family and keep contributing to this country that they see as theirs and their home now.
The change, obviously, at this stage is well, Labor says it won't go for anyone pre that 2013 announcement by Kevin Rudd. But do you think realistically human nature is going to mean the people who are now being resettled in Australia, previously told that they wouldn't be, would be speaking to people at home and saying, this is so good, maybe you should try to get to Australia any way you can? Will that happen for some people?
I can't imagine that anyone who was on a TPV or SHEV would be saying this is so good because for 10 years they've been denied all of their basic rights. For 10 years they haven't seen their family. For 10 years they have not been recognised for the contributions that they're making to this country that is their home. So I don't see that there's any danger of that at all.
Do you have conversations along those lines? Does anyone talk to you about it? Or do you ever offer advice and say, if boats start back again, this might mean this change wouldn't go ahead as a bit of a warning, I guess?
All of our conversations have been with people about how overjoyed they are that they can rebuild their lives in Australia. I have seen some of the rhetoric and narratives that are coming from certain quarters today, but that's all really predictable. And I think the focus today really needs to be on those who have finally been able to rebuild their lives, to see their families, to be afforded the permanency that they deserve. And this is about those who are in our country, have been here for over a decade, and them having that permanency. And I think that's something that we really need to focus on, that this is absolutely a vote for humanity, a vote for compassion. We will see that over the months and years to come, there's people who will be so proud to call us our fellow Australians.
Well, when you say see their families, my understanding is a lot of the limitations of people here has been not being able to go back home just for a visit, which has been restricted. Other people will say, well, hang on, if you're sort of fleeing something back home, why would you go back home and visit? How do you sort of match that up?
So I just clarify that the restrictions on travel have been on leaving Australia. So it's not that people are wanting to go home to places where they left persecution, but it might be to go on a holiday. It might be that they've had family who are resettled in another country who they want to go and visit. So the travel restrictions were they're not wanting to go home, they're just wanting to be able to travel. So that is a significant difference there to clarify. Yeah,
which I think previously they needed a sort of exemption to be able to leave the country at all. And what about Labor is limiting this change today. It's only applying to people, again, that 2013 date that Kevin Rudd said no one will be resettled after this date, that it won't apply to anyone after. Do you accept that's the reality it needs to be to not, start up the trade or the incentive for people smugglers?
Labor have always been really clear that they are committed to Operation Sovereign Borders, so that this change that they had as part of their platform, they've had as part of their pre-election commitments, whether it would always only be this pre-December 2013 group. And I have no indication from the Labor government that they would be changing that at all, and they've always been very clear on it. So from my understanding, all the conversations that they were having, this is only relating to this specific group at this stage.
Right.
And I think that's something that they've committed to. And our celebration is really for the 19,000 people whose lives have been transformed overnight with this decision.
Yeah, but just from your view, do you hope for a change of heart on others that are post that date? Is that something you continue to advocate for?
Well, at the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, we have a whole lot of policies that we're advocating for. The last 10 years has seen an absolute decimation of the rights of people seeking asylum and refugees. We've had fear and division, which has been dictating policy, not humanity and compassion. So we've got a whole range of change that we would like to see. It's going to be step by step, and this is one of the first ones that is the most significant one, and we absolutely celebrate it. But is more change needed? Yes, and we'll keep advocating for it. We sure will.